And welcome back to my podcast, Vocalize Open Wide. I am Dee, and this is a place for discussion of what's seen and heard, and sometimes I drop a word or two. Welcome back. Today's episode, I want to touch on the topic of happiness and what that really means. And then really the real focus is happiness essential? um Happiness is a feeling, right? Elation, um joy, um the absence of, I would say, sadness or any sort of depressed feeling. Happiness, most of us know what being happy feels like, or we think we know what it feels like. Free from worry, free from being upset, um, yeah, and just overall feeling good. So I wanted to open up the idea of happiness being essential, yes or no. I will tell you my take on it. Happiness is it feels good. It's nice. I could definitely say I haven't always genuinely felt happiness. Like, you feel joy, you feel peace. There's times where you're content, but genuine happiness, like almost like a blissful feeling. Most of my life, I'm almost 40, and most of my life has not necessarily. If I have to uh, describe it, I wouldn't say it was happy. Like, it was definitely has a lot of filled with blessings, put it that way. But the emotion of feeling genuinely happy for a prolonged period of time, I did not really fully experience that until pretty much, I want to say, within the recent few years, like literally maybe 2 3 years, to really know what that happiness is. And because happiness is fleeting as well, like, it depends on our circumstances. It depends on maybe how we even feel overall in ourself, our health, our mental, our emotional. So it's circumstantial. I would say happiness. Really, happiness being essential is something I don't believe in, because there are plenty of times in our lives where we're not happy, but we are purposeful. We are well placed, and I want to say well placed, meaning you belong where you are at that point in time, even when a circumstance is heavy or hard to bear, um, saddening, maddening, frustrating, and filled with turmoil. But you can still literally have your place that it was meant to be there at that point in time. There's a lot of things that can contribute to us not being happy, and that can stem from other people being in our environment. Um, how we live, where we live, the time we're living in. We might not experience that happiness. So it is conditional, really. But I think that sometimes where you are, where I would say God has you, is strategic and never without its purpose. And I know that I've heard coming up a lot of times, if you're on a job and you're unhappy, or there's something bothering you, or you feel unfulfilled at times, if you're venting, or you may tell a coworker or you tell a family member, and sometimes the remedy to alleviate the pressure or the pain is to just flee from the circumstance, right? Just get out of there. I would quit, I would leave if I was you, and all of that. And that's not necessarily the best decision someone can make, because you're not feeling happy with something or a place. That means you should just up and leave it, because at times, of what I've grown to learn over the years is that, sidebar, putting happiness to the side, um you could be in the moment or in the workings of developing a character that's necessary for your future, necessary for you to grow, for you to become more wise or knowledgeable, um to open up your heart, for you to change your perspective in life. And I feel like some those times that you're really growing the most is usually the most painful and heavy to carry. Um, and I just feel like, so many times you always often hear, as long as you're happy, as long as you're happy. And with every situation in life, we have to understand that happiness might not be a part of the equation, but it is still being used, or it's essential for your life to be in a certain place, amongst a certain group of people, or like I said, in a particular environment. And one of the best places I've come to understand that, because listen, like I say, like, you just kind of go through hard situations in your life, come up, definitely wasn't wealthy growing up, definitely had to face discrimination. Racism is always a factor in everyday life when you're a Black person, especially in a Black person in a country like the United States. It's not easy, and many people might tell you that it doesn't exist, and it's convenient for them to say that. Maybe they don't want to face facts, or they don't have to experience that, so it doesn't exist for them. But to get back to the point, it wasn't happy. It wasn't happy. Like, you have little bursts and moments here and there, but it wasn't I would say, an overall theme of my life. But I know I was still being used. I know that God was still a part of my life. I know that I was still meant to be here. And yeah, everything was happening as it should. Even there's times where I've tried to go off and do my own thing, feeling like I'll find happiness, finding my own way, and you know, still couldn't find happiness. If anything, sometimes pain sets in even more, because I'm a believer in the Lord. I believe in Jesus, and there's a different life that you live when you are, I would say, a Christian. Or I hate to just use terms that label, because people can call themselves whatever they want, but it's a genuine relationship you have with God that changes you, and it changes the way you see things, it changes the way you do things. And that real genuine experience will lead you to make, or to take certain steps. So with that saying, there's times where I didn't feel like God was on my side, or helping me, or listening to me, and I decided to go off on my own way and do whatever I wanted and be wherever I wanted, thinking that I would finally be happy, because it was always this pressure in my life of, there was like hardship, and just a lot of dark moments, and sometimes you just want them to go away. And following God doesn't mean that troubles go away. In the scripture, it even says that, you will have trouble, but He will be our help, basically, through all of it. So it doesn't get removed because you believe in God. And there's so many people could say, well, there's so many negative things that happen on the earth. Where is God? And God is still there. If you believe in Him, He's always there. But it doesn't mean that we won't find trouble and difficulties and challenges. So having that experience, and knowing that my life wasn't necessarily smooth, or felt good most of the time, and growing up and becoming an adult and thinking that, well, things should have changed by now, right? I should be happy. But no, not necessarily. So I but I know that God was always in my life. He was always there. And even when things were sad and tough and rough, but it was coming to Him that really made the difference. Now, I'm not here to like build on a sermon or anything like that. At least I don't think so. But I'm just giving a little bit of background of where I'm coming from, with the perspective of what I'm speaking of at the moment. So that being the case, like, there's times where I've gone on to try to find my own way, like almost like, blocking the Lord, and just saying, I want to do it my way, because I just want to be happy. I just don't want to feel this pain and this anguish. And what ended up happening was me finding more pain and more anguish. And then when I tried to use prayer, because I wasn't necessarily following the path God had for me, there wasn't that alleviation of pressure or tension, or a sense of peace instilled, because I was kind of doing my own thing. God still loves, he still cares, he still is there. But when we are ignoring him, for those of us that know the Lord, when we block him out, he doesn't necessarily force himself on you. It takes you turning around. There will be situations that happen in your life that you turn around and it'll be like, well, oops, I made a mistake. But I have to bring the Lord into it because that is my life. There's nothing to hide about it. Um, so I will talk about God at times because he's a real person and definitely a full active part of my life. And I can't express this without talking about him because, you know, uh, everything is used for a purpose. So I know that there's plenty of times people are feeling pain and sadness, especially with this pandemic that we've been going through. A lot of people found depression and it hard to bear and hard to cope. And I know that personally, yes, I've been through depression. I've had like I wasn't diagnosed, but I felt like it was chronic depression at times because you don't know where to turn. You don't want to talk to anyone. You don't do the things that you used to do or the things that used to find love and joy and pleasure in doing, you don't anymore. There was all of that. There was all of that at times in my life. And um, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't know God. I don't know how I would have gotten through those moments and those times because it was really trusting him and my prayers that got me through some of the most difficult times in my life because there is a genuine relieving of tension in your person, in your body, in your mind, in your spirit when you have that connection to that higher power, which is God. And I can pray for this times where I've been incredibly sad and like feeling turmoil in my spirit and about anything, about maybe a job I was working at, maybe my home life, or personal situations. And though the circumstance wasn't removed, I did feel the alleviation. Like I felt peace, not necessarily maybe happy about where my life was at the point in time, but I did feel peace. So, I think that people could benefit from what I'm saying because happiness is not always a factor, but your life still means something. It's still meaningful. It's still purposeful. It still is a part of God's good plan, and that's why you're here. So you may not know. You may not know what it is. Sometimes every day to day could seem confusing. I mean, God, if I could count the many days that I was just confused and baffled by my own life, I mean, like I don't know if I would end like counting those days. But knowing that wherever I was, as long as I had a sense of peace about where I was, not necessarily happy or joyous about where I was or the things I was experiencing, I knew that I was in the right place and somehow it would prove itself to be beneficial. Maybe, not necessarily directly in my life right away, but perhaps I was going through those things to be able to provide comfort to someone else or be knowledgeable about a situation that I could be an advocate for it. I can know how to respond if someone else was going through it, or leveling up my compassion and my empathy for other people, changing me, growing me up. And I just know that there's plenty of times, even like at work, there's been jobs that I've had that I had a piece that I was supposed to be there, but happiness was nowhere in the picture for however many years I was at those places. But I know that there was a chipping away at the character I used to have and a transformation of me being at that place, at that time, amongst those people, in those situations. And I was able to look back, in the moment. And also once I was out of it, I was able to look back and see how much I changed. And me being different also was an aid for other people too, because there were times where I wish I had more compassion and understanding from others, and I didn't get it. But because I've went through some of my own rough spots and patches in my life that God brought me through, I was able to see when someone else was hurting. And as much as it just may take a kind word or a hug or even a listening ear that understood, and it could mean so much to another person that might not be getting it from anywhere else. And it took those difficult times. It took those difficult times for me to experience on my own, to be more prepared, more grown up, more mature, more sound in my mind as of how the world works, or how life circumstances can impact someone. Um, yeah, and just how to be a better person all around. So for anyone that may be in a moment in their lives where they don't feel happy, they don't feel like there's any reason to go on, they don't know what the point is in them being here, I gotta tell you, you might not know, but as long as you're here, I trust and believe, like, you might not believe in God, but it doesn't make him unreal. It doesn't make him unreal. It doesn't make him fake. You just may not believe in it. It might not be something that you even want to open your mind up to, but it's still a fact. And I know that. I'm not going to say that that's just my opinion, but I know that's a fact. Some people will want to doubt and question, and that's fine for you, because we all are able to have our own free will to decide what we want to do and how we want to think. But if there's any encouragement that I could send, is that happiness may not be a part of your present or the picture that you want for yourself at the present moment, but your life is still meaningful and still purposeful. And we do need to grow as people. We should be evolving and changing as life carries us through the days and the months and the years. And a lot of those times are going to be through difficult moments, through moments where it's like a refining moment. Scripture will talk about a refining of your character, of you need to change, you need to grow. And happy is just happy. You just enjoying the moment. I can't say you're not going to learn anything just being happy, but you learn more when you're not. If that makes sense. It's like you learn more. It's almost like the concept of when people make negative comments, you can have 1,000 positive comments and encouraging comments and people telling you all sorts of brilliant good things about yourself, and that one person, now that one statement that someone makes that is quite harsh and comes from ignorance, it comes from not knowing how to love or display any kind of affection towards someone. It's like that one, whether it be true or have any sort of truth in it, or it's just malice. You remember that one. You remember that one comment out of 1,000 that were great. And somehow you think, well, that person said XYZ. Is that really true? Instead of like focusing on how many more that outweighs that one. So that's why I usually truly believe, and I think why it sticks so much in the darker times, that growth and that expanding of your person, your mind happens when you feel the most pain or the most suffering. It stands out. You remember it more. Yeah, happiness and just joy is just that. It feels good in a moment, and next thing you know, it's over. You probably don't even remember what you did while you were happy. But I just want to say, happiness is not essential in my book, in my opinion, because sometimes you just need to be doing a certain thing and dedicated to a certain work or purpose, and it might not be fun. It might not be interesting. It may seem frustrating and almost purposeless, but it isn't. It isn't. It's nice to be happy, but I don't think happiness is necessarily the real goal. But the real goal should be the purpose and the meaningfulness of what your life is, wherever you find it. So, yep, hope to catch you in the next one.